Hey coaches, Coach Simpson coming to you from Searcy, Arkansas. Welcome again to my basement and where I've been producing a lot of these YouTube videos. So each week I've kind of gone with a theme, and this week will be no different. If you follow me on different forms of social media, you know that I just put out my most recent book, Coaching Football Like a Basketball Coach. And so this week's theme is all going to be coming from the book. I'm going to try to do 7 days. So today's kind of introductory, being on Sunday, and then I'll follow through different parts of the book, kind of real quick synopsis of it. If you'd like to get the book, it's available on my website, fbcoachsimpson.com. If you just want to talk football, you can reach out to me at fbcoachsimpson on Twitter or email me fbcoachsimpson@gmail.com. I'm also attempting to grow this YouTube channel, so if you don't mind, if you would click the like and subscribe button down below, I'd appreciate it. Hoping to put out new content each week. So this week's theme and the things I'm going to walk through is to think like a basketball coach. Real quick story of where this came from. I used to coach basketball a long time ago. Played basketball through high school. I have 2 children now that are playing basketball. I'm a huge fan of watching college basketball and even NBA basketball, at least at the time that matters, which is the playoffs. So big Miami Heat fan and Orlando Magic fan. So I've been watching a lot of basketball and trying to figure out how does this correlate to football, or do they correlate, do they work together? So I did come up with a few things that I thought that basketball coaches do really well, and that's where the concept of the book came from. And these are the things we're going to walk through this week. So first thing I think basketball coaches do really well with is understanding concepts. Not just them, but teaching their players concepts. So teaching them, for example, hey, if we're going to run a screen and roll, here are the 3 or 4 options that may present themselves as we run this. So we're not really running one play, we're running all these multiple options, all these if this happens, then do this, as kind of built-in rules. And I think that's the way football is going now. You know, watch a spread team's playbook and they say we run 4 plays, and then they got all these little pointy arrows going different ways because all the routes are adjustable based on the defense. Well, that's kind of an idea of a concept. Same thing on run plays. You know, a lot of teams used to call through a certain gap, certain running back. Now you're seeing words, one-word run plays like zone, where it may hit here, or there. That's a concept play. It's a play that can hit multiple places and is fluid. Okay. Second thing we're going to talk about, that'll be on Monday. Second thing we're going to talk about will be formations. Using formations offensively to give your players an advantage. You know, I think that's a lot of teams do really well with using formations for a purpose. Not just using a lot of formations just because you can, or using personnel groups because it looks good, but you're doing it to gain an advantage, to get a matchup you may want, to create angles for your players. You see this in basketball all the time with different sets where they're going to either run an isolation and they'll flood one side of the court, or they'll bunch their players up and bring them off screens and different things like that. So basketball type idea showing itself again on the football field. Third thing we're talking about is pick plays. That's a simple one. If you run offense now, that's kind of become the deal of how do I run screens without it really being a screen. You know, how do I run different type of mesh routes or different types of crossing concepts that are taking over football now because they're great man-to-man beaters. Well, that's been around forever with basketball. You know, play man-to-man, you're working different ways. You can kind of set subtle screens and get your guy the ball. So basketball idea, how does that translate on a football field? We'll hit that on the third day. Matchup zone. You're seeing a whole lot of one of my people I follow a lot on Twitter. I'm a huge fan of him. I've talked to him a couple times. It's Cody Alexander. He does match quarters, which has become kind of a huge thing, at least in my area, where you're seeing a lot of quarters and you're seeing a lot of 2 read, and then that looks like 0. And so you can kind of go back and forth and then match up zone. You're starting to see how you're gaining concepts from basketball, where now you don't want to only run certain things in man, and you don't want to teach zone the old school way, like drop to this spot, you have hook to curl. A kid doesn't even know what that means anymore. So now you're teaching a matchup zone where you have number 2 unless, and then you got to teach that through. So that's another big basketball concept that's becoming prevalent in football as the passing games have evolved. The next one we're going to talk about is how it's a fluid game. You've got to be able to make quick, subtle adjustments in the middle of a game, offensively, defensively, and of course on special teams also. That really is a basketball type deal because there are so many possessions in basketball where you're going to run the same kind of play and make those real quick, subtle adjustments. Hey, this guy's overplaying you. We're going to run a backdoor cut. So now how do we translate that into football? Okay, and then the final one we'll talk about is running drills with a purpose. Not every basketball coach does this, but the great ones do, and the great ones do in football as well, is that their kids understand, hey, we're running this drill, and this is exactly how this looks in a game. So your kids are gaining value from that drill, not just a skill. And there are some drills you run to gain in skills. Catching footballs, just like shooting free throws, you've got to do it to gain in skill. But then there are those drills that a lot of times we don't explain a lot to our athletes, like tackling drills, doing 2-on-1 tackling drills, understanding where your leverage and fit is. Where a lot of times basketball is running like a 2-on-1 and you're explaining the different concepts through that. So hopefully all of these will make sense. I am a football coach, and so I'm very pro football coaches, so don't think I'm saying basketball coaches have it all together and football coaches don't. I'm not saying that, but I am saying there's a lot we can learn from looking at other sports, which is where the concept of the book came from. Hopefully you'll enjoy this series. Again, if you'd like more information from me, if you want to talk football, you can reach out to me, FB Coach Simpson, on Twitter. You can find me in those Facebook groups or wherever you'd like to. If you'd like to get one of my books, it's available on Amazon. It's also available on my website, fbcoachsimpson.com, under materials. Would love to hear some feedback. So if you've read the book or had any questions about kind of what I'm going through here, would love to see them in the comments, and I'll try to address them as we move throughout this week. Thanks for your time.